And because it was a 4-lane highway that was accessible, my mother drove us, and rather than us be able to walk. And guess what? The first frost, you know what was happening? It had to put on their windshield wipers to get literally the oil slick off the window. That's why I and so damn many other people I grew up have cancer. And why can't, for the longest time, Delaware had the highest cancer rate in the nation.
So there was Joe Biden from 2022 admitting that he had cancer. I showed you guys the video when it came out here on Restricted Republic, but the mainstream media said, no. He meant he had cancer, as in the past, which he did. He had something very small removed. But now it has come out that the man has full-blown prostate cancer, and in fact, a very aggressive form. Well, I've got a lot of questions regarding that, but more specifically, I do believe that they are covering up something major, and this entire thing is a distraction, let alone what I believe to be a lie, because I think they knew well damn in advance that the man had cancer, and they kept it quiet from all of us, and they did it on purpose. But before I dive in, just a quick break from my sponsor. You know, sometimes you see something and you think, I've got to have one of those in my life like yesterday. Well, these Trump sneakers that are gold are going to make you think just that. Take a look at these bad boys. They aren't just shoes. They're a full-on statement. They're bold. They're fearless. They're unapologetic and patriotic. And let me tell you, they don't just look good on your feet. They feel good as well. They're comfortable. They're lightweight and they are durable. But you know what's best about these is they send a message, and a message, by the way, that liberals are not going to like. That is why you should check these out ASAP, and you can even buy them as a gift. All you have to do to check these bad boys out is go to the MAGAoffers.com/Lisa. That's the MAGAoffers.com/Lisa. And right now, if you go to my site, you can get it for 15% off just for my audience only. And by the way, you want to hurry up and get a jump on this because they are only selling 1,000 pairs. So check it out now. Anyhow, if you want more information, click that more button or click the link in the description box below. So I want to show you just a little bit more evidence that he may have known, or the administration may have known, about his cancer prior to. Here's his brother, Mr. Frank. Biden's brother, Frank, makes a very shocking statement that sparked fury from Joe Biden's family. Now, this is on the Daily Express, and this happened about 10 or so months ago. It goes on to state, here's what Frank said: "Selfishly, I will have him back to enjoy whatever time we have left. He is a genuine hero, country over self." It sounds corny in our cynical political environment, but he nor I are cynical. In other words, you don't say something like, "I want him back so I can enjoy whatever time we have left," unless you have some kind of potentially terminal diagnosis like, I don't know, cancer. Now, just to give you a little background on what this kind of cancer is and why I've got so many questions about it, I think I'm not the only one on this, but here we have NBC, former President Joe Biden diagnosed with aggressive form of prostate cancer. The cancer has metastasized to the bone, according to the former president's personal office. To give you a little detail on that, the former president's personal office shared on Sunday that Biden was diagnosed with an aggressive form of prostate cancer, prompting an outpouring of support from politicians and allies. Last week, President Joe Biden was seen for a new finding of a prostate nodule after experiencing increasing urinary symptoms. His personal office said in a statement on Friday, he was diagnosed with prostate cancer characterized by a Gleason score of 9 with metastasis to the bone. Metastasis means the cancer has spread from its primary site to the other tissues in the body. All right. So in other words, I'm not going to get into all the details on that, but if something is going to metastasize to the bone, it takes a good 10 years-ish for something like that to happen. In other words, considering he's the president of the United States and he has these constant exams, it is very, very, very unlikely that a doctor didn't catch this, I don't know, 10 some odd years ago? Or at least well before he became president, if not, I mean, this is insane. In fact, I asked ChatGTP that very question because it's interesting, right? As a president, how likely or unlikely would it be for them to miss, say, prostate cancer? For a sitting U.S. president, missing a prostate cancer diagnosis is highly unlikely, but not impossible, we get it not. Highly unlikely. Why? Because they have the top medical care. They have routine screenings, which he would have had, the PSA testing, and he would have been tested. His prostate would have been tested, just like, we have annual exams ourselves. So does the freaking president. High transparency expectations and advanced tools, right? So these are things that can, more than likely, let me just put it bluntly, more than likely the Joe Biden family knew that he had this cancer diagnosis, and they kept it from everyone. Now, the question therein lies is, when did they know? How long did they know? And who all knows about it? Right? So there's a lot going on with that. In fact, a urologist came out, and I want to show you this. Benny Johnston shared this on his X page, but urologist Dr. Sussman says it's unheard of for someone with Biden's level of care to not know he had prostate cancer 5 to 10 years ago. It was a full-on cover-up. It is very unlikely that someone could get annual checkups and not notice. He is a former president. He had intense state-of-the-art care. It's unusual to hear that someone has prostate cancer when they're annually being followed up. The fact that we find it at a Gleason 9 is unheard of. Most likely had it for a very long time. Aggressive prostate cancer grows over a long period of time, 5 to 10 years, in the most aggressive form. Definitely evidence that he knew about this for a while. And even ChatGTP agrees with that assessment. So they covered it up. Now, with that in mind, that's my 2 cents, and I happen to agree with that urologist, and in this case, ChatGTP. But with that in mind, the timing of when this announcement has been released is it's not a coincidence, because this announcement came just after hers report on Joe Biden's mental health just got dropped. And right after that, conveniently, Joe Biden comes out and he has cancer that's so aggressive. And we never knew, my ass, right? It's just yet another cover-up from the mainstream media. In fact, as much as I hate Brian Stelter, he actually called attention to it. This guy's a hypocrite of all hypocrites, but here it is on the Daily Mail. CNN host calls timing of Biden's cancer diagnosis extraordinary and suggests the real motive. Brian Stelter said the timing of Biden's diagnosis was extraordinary, given the onslaught of negative coverage for over 82-year-old former president's declining mental state while in the Oval Office. The timing, it's just extraordinary, Stelter said during a discussion. He goes on, Biden learned of his career diagnosis on Friday. And what was the biggest Biden story on Friday as well? It was the release of those excruciating audio excerpts from his 2023 conversations with Robert Hur. Abso-freaking-lutely. So right before he makes his announcement on cancer, right before that, this Hur report comes out. Why? They want you distracted. How bad is the Hur report? Well, Axios actually published it on their website here. It says exclusive. Prosecutor's audio shows Biden's memory lapses. Now, I'm going to play this clip of him talking about the death of his son. And I just want you to hear how bad he is in this interview. And keep in mind, this interview goes all the way back to 2023. In other words, we got some splaining to do. Take a watch.
1 month ago, dying. May 30th, 2015 he died.
2015.
I think it's 2015.
I'm not sure the months or anything that was.
Yeah.
That's right, Mr. President.
And what's happened in the meantime is that Trump gets elected in November of 2017? 2016. All right. So, what did I have 2017, yeah.
That's when he left office, January of 2017.
Okay. But that's when Trump gets sworn in.
Right.
January.
Right. Correct.
Okay, yeah. And in 2017, Bo had passed,
and you could see there at the end, he said, my son died in 2017, but they remind him at the beginning of the video it was 2015. It's just insane. By the end of like 4 minutes, the investigators were like, hey, let's take a break. Let's take a break. And so they had to take repeated breaks, from my understanding. This is a guy who was the president in 2023, and that's how he's going through these investigations. Somebody needs to go back and start questioning what the hell kind of rules and regulations were passed from 2023 on, because we've got evidence in this Her report that this guy was out of his freaking ever-loving mind. He couldn't remember details. He couldn't sit down. He couldn't think. He couldn't do a lot of things. And the truth of the matter is, they just made an announcement that they are going to start investigating that very thing, and not necessarily just his cognitive ability. Everybody knows he's kind of gone, but what was signed with the Autopen, and how deep does that really go? And here's this announcement, and Julia posted it on her X page. Representative James Comer believes that they've identified the staffers involved in the use of the Autopen and when Biden started to mentally decline. So they're actually going to start investigating this. Take a listen to what James Comer tells Fox News.
Hard evidence early in the President Biden's term as president. It clearly shows that he was in significant mental decline. It questions who was actually making the decisions. So what we found is not just with the pardons he issued, but many of the executive orders that the courts are now using to Trump-proof many of the executive orders that President Trump is trying to implement to make government more efficient. Many of these executive orders, as well as the pardons of Biden's entire family as a result of our investigation, these were all signed with the Autopen. And clearly from that interview, which was many, many months prior to the heavy use of the Autopen, Joe Biden wasn't capable of making decisions. He wasn't coherent. We think we've identified who the staffers are. Jason, you all have done great work with that over at Heritage Oversight. We're going to bring everyone that we believe was involved in any role in the use of the Autopen. We're going to invite them to come in for a transcribed interview. If they want, then they will receive a subpoena and they will have a full-blown deposition. But we want to find out who was actually making the decisions in the White House during the last 9 months of the Biden administration.
Amen to that. Amen to that. So now, because of those Her tapes, a piece of which you just saw, they are going to investigate. And I really hope that they do, and something needs to come of it. What makes me really sick is Congress knew damn well the guy was cognitively declined, and they did nothing about it. They allowed him. They didn't go after him with the 25th Amendment at all, but they should have absolutely done that, and they didn't. But speaking of, who was in charge of the Autopen? Well, let me have a flashback. James O'Keefe, about a year ago, published this report in which special advisor to Joe Biden, may have indirectly revealed who was in charge. Take a watch.
So I feel like Barack Obama's still very involved.
No, he is.
Yeah, Hillary was being interviewed, and she said, "I still talk to the White House every day."
She has people that are super close to her that are still senior people in the White House.
So who is she talking to in the White House?
Probably near Tandon.
And I hope that Hillary's still involved behind the scene, because
No, she is.
There is Barack Obama's name again, and even Hillary Clinton's. And that little last name at the end of that you saw, I think her name's going to come up quite a bit more. And that is Neera Tandon. Because she, I believe, was one of the staffers. And I think we're going to hear a lot more about her in the future. She could be one of the ones that gets subpoenaed, by the way. But anyhow, wanted to share all of that with you. Can't wait to hear your comments and concerns. And here's where you get the real truth of what is going on. So please make sure you're subscribed to the channel, hit that sub button, and don't miss a beat. Make sure you go all the way up to the bell and check the bell so you get all those notifications. Anyhow, I love you all. I'm Lisa Haven, signing out.